to Southern Blessed Homestead. My name's Patty, and welcome back those my friends and family. And today I am going to be making some stew, and I thought that I might as well show you guys and tell you what I'm doing. So actually I'm just following a recipe, but with my own way of doing it, I guess you could say. I was gifted something, and I like to put to use everything that I can, and so I was gifted a beef heart, and I've never processed or used a beef heart before, so I was reading up on it, watching some videos, and different people do different things with it, and it is an organ meat, so therefore it has a lot of blood in it, and you're supposed to drain it and soak it and do different things like that. I'm very impatient, so I'm doing as less as possible to get this job done because I have other things to do. So I did do those things, and I've already done it, so I can't show you, but you'll have to just believe me, this is a beef heart. So I weighed it out, and I have a little over 2 pounds of beef heart that I have taken off all the fat and the veins, or whatever you want to call them. I don't know. It's the all the excess stuff. And also yesterday, or day before yesterday, I made some bone broth, and it had some seasoning and stuff in it. So I'm going to be utilizing that because I needed to can that up. So I thought, well, why not take my beef heart and make some beef stew? So I'm going to be making the beef stew out of some of my bone broth and that I just recently made, and then some beef broth that I have already, and with this beef heart. And actually also I got a really good deal on some mixed vegetables, some frozen mixed vegetables, so I will be using these as well. I already measured one bag, and then I have the other bag right here, but these are frozen right now, so they're just kind of thawing out a little bit. And all this is going to be pressure canned, so which means it will marinate and get all the flavors and stuff together as it processes. So I'm not going to be putting it together and cooking it for hours first. I'm just going to cook it for a little bit of time by putting it together, about 5 minutes maybe, and then I'm going to can it, because when you're dealing with meat and you're canning it, you have to can it for a long process. So with pints it's 75 minutes, and with quarts it's 90 minutes. So I'm also using the Ball Home Preserving book. I'm kind of going by their beef stew with vegetable recipes, which is on page 409 if you have this book. This is a great book for some really good recipes to can and stuff. So I have the majority of all this, and this is actually just for stew meat, but which also I do have about a cup or so of beef scraps that was from my bone broth the other day, so I'm going to add that in there as well. I'm going to utilize everything I have. And also we had bought half a cow last year, so I just recently got the fat out and I rendered it into some tallow, so I have a little bit of tallow here that I'm going to be using. So I'm going to utilize everything that we've got recently and that I have available to make this. So we're going to follow these directions pretty much. Like I said, the advice about the beef heart, because it is an organ meat, is to get as much of the blood out of it as possible, so it won't be like gamey tasting and stuff. But this, and I don't know what kind of cow this came from, if it was grass-fed, you know, grain finished or whatever, all those things. I don't know for sure. It came from a beautiful friend of mine that is as health-minded as I am in those issues, so it quite possibly is. What I did was I cut it into chunks, and I soaked it in a salt and apple cider vinegar brine, and it's been soaking for about an hour now. And you'll see that the blood has come out into the water, and this has been, it was, as it thawed out, it was frozen, given to me, and as it thawed out, a lot of the blood drained out as well. So it has been drained of the blood quite a bit. So right now I'm going to drain it, and then I'm going to brown it with no flour because I'm going to be canning it. So I'm just going to put a little bit of tallow in this electric skillet of mine, and I'm going to brown it, and then we'll put all the rest of the ingredients in the stock pot and put it together, and then we're going to can it. So I'm going to drain it. Alright, I got it drained, and I'm going to put some of this tallow in this electric skillet, turn it on. I don't know, about, they said it's supposed to be a hot skillet, I think, so I'm going to turn it up to like 400 or something. I would do this in a regular skillet on the stove, but we have a propane gas stove, and it is in the middle of summer and it's hot outside, and I'm trying really hard not to heat up the house. Canning is heating up the house enough as it is. But man, this tallow really solidified, so I'm trying to just get enough out and let it melt. I don't want a whole lot of fat to have in the soup, so I'm just trying to get enough to brown it a little bit. So excited to have all this tallow, and we did also rendered some lard, and as you know, in our time right now we're having a little bit of trouble with price increasing, and we like to fry and use oil for baking and everything else, and it's getting more and more expensive. So I am very thankful that we were able to get this oil, this fat to use, and it's healthier for you, which I love. Try to be as healthy as possible. All right. You see, it looks basically just like beef, and I mean it is, but I mean it looks, you know, like regular chunks of roast beef type. Probably, I think it'll be okay. It's a big skillet. I want it to more or less brown and not just sauteed and watery. Alright. I think it says that for the recipe has onions, and some of the people that I looked at their recipes, they sauteed the onions with the meat, which kind of, when you do that, the flavor of the onions should get into the meat somewhat. So I'm really kind of tempted to do some of that. So I'm going to take some of these chopped onions and put it in here. I like flavorful meat, right? Okay. Turn this all the way up so it's not, hopefully. I'm not sure how long this is going to take, but my skillet is not hot enough. So it might take a little bit longer than I wanted to, but it's going to taste good when it's all together, pressurized, so that it'll make everything real tender. You can add potatoes to this recipe. I love beef stew with potatoes, but I don't have any right now. I do have some little baby ones, but I don't feel like peeling those little ones and putting them in here. So when I open the jar to eat, I may just add some potatoes then. So good thing about, I mean, I'm a pretty flexible cook. I like to do things, add stuff to stuff. I like spices, I like flavors that enhance stuff. I probably use too much spices a lot of times, but I don't like things plain that much. I like flavor. So when I open the jar of beef stew, if I want to add a tomato flavor to it, I can add some tomato paste or sauce. I can add flour. You do not use flour when canning, but I can add a roux to it to thicken it, add potatoes to it. You can do whatever you want to after you, but this takes, having it canned takes away most of the effort of cooking beef stew when you're in a hurry and you want some beef stew. So, yeah, it's got too much water in here. It's just kind of like boiling it instead of frying it. Browning it. Okay, so don't do as I'm doing, just do what I say. Drain your meat and let it drain a little bit more so it won't be so watery. I pressed on it trying to get the liquid out of it. More or less, it's just my skillet is not hot enough. It'll still be good, but searing and cooking the meat in a hot skillet or whatever helps to keep the flavor in the meat and just enhances it. But it'll still be good. I'm looking forward to trying this. I've heard good things about beef heart, that it's very delicious. It's a very dense meat. And there's all different ways to use it. So next time if I get one, I may try a different recipe. I've heard that tacos are good with it. Just since I had made the broth and stuff, I just had on my mind to just make some, and I had this heart. I'm just trying to put beef stew together. It just, that's what that's what I'm trying to do. Alright, I think that's going to be enough. All it is sauteing and boiling it, so I don't want to overcook it at this point. It's not really sauteing, I mean browning it like it's supposed to. So, I'm just going to turn this off and we're just going to start adding everything into the stock pot and go from there. So, I'm going to add the mixed vegetables that I have. They're little bits of stuff, so hopefully they won't disintegrate in this beef stew. But they're carrots, peas, green beans, corn, and lima beans. All the good vegetables for a stew. Okay, so I'm going to use both of those. Make sure there's no extra stuff in here. Had a little stem in there. Alright, this is my leftover beef that was in from my stock. My spoon. So I'm going to add that to it. And oops, gotta make sure it's in smaller chunks, bite-sized chunks. All right, this is the most recent bone broth that I made, and then I've got beef broth. So what I do, here's my ladle. Don't know where anything is. I'm just gonna use See, the recipe says just add water, but I'm gonna add extra flavor since I had this broth. And you're just supposed to cover it. I don't want to use all of this bone broth because I do want to can up at least a couple jars, pints of some bone broth. And then I'll just use the beef broth. So I'm using this bone broth basically for flavor, some added flavor, because it was made also with some vegetables like carrots and celery and stuff. But I'm gonna add some of my beef broth. All right. Here's the beef heart. I'm going to add it. It has broth with it now. Okay. Stir that around a little bit. These vegetables are still a little frozen, so I heat them up. All right, I'm going to add some more broth to it. Things will cook down, and I want the soup to be not just brothy. I want it to have consistency to it. So, all right, now the recipe here. Can you see my recipe? Here it is. Beef stew with vegetables. Alright, now I'm going by it as far as seasonings and stuff go. And it said to put in some thyme, which I love thyme. Has all different good health benefits for you. And it says 1 teaspoon. And black pepper, half a teaspoon. That I actually am kind of I forgot about that. Like I said, I like flavor. I'm halving this recipe. I forgot about that, but it's okay. As far as the spices go, I like flavor. So, oh, I gotta add the rest of those onions. And I have Redmond salt. That's what's in this jar. This is my jar, but because I buy it in bulk. I love Redmond salt because it has natural minerals and stuff in it that are really good for you. It does, and not like that iodized salt and stuff. That stuff will raise your blood pressure, but this will not. This will give you health benefits, and it really brings out really good flavor. So it says 4.5 teaspoons. So I'm probably going to add at least 3. And now for my own benefits, I'm going to add in some bell peppers that I dehydrated and ground up last year. And so I'm going to add some bell peppers to it. I like peppers. Pepper flavoring. So I'm going to add at least a teaspoon to that. A little over a teaspoon. I'm going to add the rest of this onion. Alrighty. As you can see, it's not real brothy, and you're just supposed to have enough broth to cover it. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and cook this and see what it does. And when I put it in the jars, if I need more water, I'll add a little bit of water or more broth to it then. But I'm just going to cook this for about 5 minutes in order to make sure those vegetables are warmed up and not frozen anymore. And then I will start putting it in jars and we'll start canning it. So once it comes to about a boil, I'm going to cook it for about 5 minutes. I'll turn it down and just simmer it more or less for about 5 minutes. And then I'll get the process of canning going. Alright, it was boiling and I turned it off and I got distracted, but it's still warm. So we're going to jar this up, and my jars are still hot, and we're going to put it in these jars. I'm putting them in quart jars, so I don't know how many I'm going to get. I also have about a quart of bone broth that I'm going to put in as well and do it all together. So looky there, looks pretty good. See all those chunks? Yeah, I'm probably gonna have to fill a couple jars and then pour the juice, because I don't know, maybe I'll get some juice here and just put juice too. This takes a little while when you're doing quarts, especially. A quart is just enough for Mac and I to eat a meal. Actually, probably too much, but it's good. We'll want to eat it all. And you got to leave head space, so I usually stop at this bottom rim. That is at least an inch, so you got to give it space. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this one jar and wipe it down, make sure you get it good and clean with some vinegar. Put your top on. Oh, I can get it on there, just finger tight. And I'm gonna put it in here. And there's one. So now we're going to see how many more we get. I got 4 quarts. Let's see, I got one more jar. I'm going to put my broth in. Perfect. Alrighty, so that means I'm going to add some water to these just to top them off. It's been a while since I canned any quarts. I've been doing most everything in pints because Mac and I, just the two of us, don't need much. Make sure I have enough water in there. That's good enough. You don't have to submerge them, but you want enough in there to boil and get the pressure up. So it's about a little less than halfway up the jar. Okay, get the lid on. Okay, press it down and turn it. It's still dirty. Alright, now we're going to turn it on and let it do its stuff. And since they are quarts, it'll be 90 minutes once it comes to pressure. And I'll be timing it after when it gets to that point, and then I'll show you when they're done. Alright, the time has come. Hopefully everything turned out okay. We processed it for the right amount of time, and it has been cooling, and it's late and I'm tired, so we're going to take these out. And then I'm going to say goodnight. So, it's going to be hot. Alright, you lift it away from yourself. Yeah. They're hot. And they're processed. And we'll wait and see if it'll pop and ping, and the job is done. And we got us some soup for later on. And this will be at least 4 to possibly maybe 8 meals. Depends on if I add anything to it. And then I got some really good broth for another couple meals, or just for some nutrition. to take. So that's it. The job is done. And I hope you will try something like this for yourself. It's very rewarding to have some good soup for later on this winter. So thank you for watching. And oh, there's a ping. One's done. Have a Southern blessed day.